One of the repeated lines of the temporary 2-week emergency that turned into the long-term status quo is government officials saying some version of the only way out is to do what I say. If you want to go back to normal, then here are the steps that I mandate to get you there, as though you aren't a free person who can take free steps that define normal for yourself. In today's story, the New York governor says exactly that. Just do what I say, because normal is right there on the other side of it.
We are over it. We are done. We want to move on. And the only way we can do that is to ensure that everyone is vaccinated.
And a huge percentage of us believe it. Just follow that carrot a few more steps and we'll be on our way back to normal. But we never stop to evaluate where these steps are leading. Following their marching orders has only led us into emergency, never away from it. For all the promises of normal's return, it hasn't. Despite overwhelming compliance, despite multiple goalposts cleared and then further shifted. And that's because you never get back to normal if you keep taking more and more steps away from it, no matter how sure about the route they say they are. And there are two ways to motivate that march. One is by promising that desirable destination, right this way to normal, it's just over the bend. The other is by pushing the urgency to leave. If the status quo is a disaster, then it's not just about where we're going. It's about leaving for its own sake, because we have to. And that's the other piece of this march that we have to be constantly evaluating, not just where we're supposedly going, but why it's supposedly necessary to leave. In other words, if the destination is a mirage at which we never arrive, it's likely the reason to start heading there is a mirage too, just as fabricated, just as exaggerated, just as self-serving for politicians who claim they're just looking out for you, but somehow only keep benefiting themselves with newly acquired power and widespread public belief in its legitimacy. They create the emergency, they swoop in with broad new power to solve it, but their solutions only create more problems. That funny, their new powers are also the answer to solve. The cycle doesn't lead to your betterment. It just leads to their control. Think of all the contexts in which we've seen this pattern recently. Sure, we're stopping you from going to work, but hey, it's an emergency. Don't worry, because we'll cover your wages. In fact, we'll give you bonus pay to keep it extra cushy for you. Whoops, now a labor shortage is the emergency, but hey, that too could be solved if you just let us set new wage standards.
Pay them more. This is an employees bargaining chip now.
And sure, we're shutting down your business, or at least radically altering your business model, but hey, it's an emergency. Don't worry. We'll cover your operating costs. Whoops, looks like your business never came back quite the same and you got to shut it down. But don't worry, you can get a new job in the rapidly expanding government industry, or as an assistant to one of those Nigerian princes who did so well in the last year. And in the case of today's story, sure, we're forcing vaccines, but hey, it's an emergency. Don't worry. It just means you'll have safe workers to care for you at the hospital. Whoops, looks like those hospital workers quit and now services aren't available, but don't worry. If you just give us more power to restaff these hospitals ourselves, it's going to be way better under our management. You'll see. That's the announcement that new New York Governor Kathy Hochul made on Monday. She's stepping into the embarrassing shoes to fill of Andrew Cuomo, but this is a solid shot at filling them. She announced that because the state's vaccine mandate for healthcare workers is causing tens of thousands of them in New York to lose their jobs, she's stepping up to send medically trained National Guardsmen into your hospital to take care of you. Sure, we know you guys aren't big fans of militarized police, but wait until you try the militarized healthcare.
I will be signing an executive order to give me the emergency powers necessary to address these shortages where they occur. That's going to allow me to deploy the National Guard, who are medically trained.
And remember, assault weapons have no purpose other than forcing you off the job if you don't do what they say. And it goes to show, even if obeying these people does earn you their favor today, doesn't mean you get to keep it tomorrow. In fact, compliance with those initial, seemingly small, insignificant orders is only rewarded with more intrusive, controlling orders later. Hey, thanks for doing what I say. Now here's 10 more things I say to do. And when you're done with those, come back for 100 more. These healthcare workers were praised as yesterday's heroes, not just generally, but by Kathy Hochul herself. Disproportionately female, selfless warriors of the front lines, putting others first, and often earning low wages for themselves until they actually make decisions for themselves, because then they're fired. Too bad about your low wages, ladies, because now you get no wages. But hey, you're strong, powerful women, so I'm sure you'll figure it out. So they're gone, and who cares about them? Because today, we thank those who made the right decision.
First of all, those of you who've been vaccinated, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing what was right.
Because those who made the wrong decision not only aren't smart,
all of you, yes, I know you're vaccinated. You're the smart ones.
They're also a danger to their coworkers and to patients.
And to all the other healthcare workers who are vaccinated, they also deserve to know that the people they're working with will not get them sick. We now know that there are cases where people are reinfected, that there are cases of breakthroughs. It's a low percentage, but who wants to take that risk? Nobody.
First of all, you can't say both that the vaccine is incredibly effective.
It has been amazingly successful in saving lives. It works.
But also, those who have taken it are at risk. It either works well or it does not work well. Secondly, it is unfair to say that these people inherently present risk when there is nobody more likely to have natural immunity from prior exposure. And thirdly, even if they do present a risk, whose job is it to assess that risk? How do you know that nobody accepts the risk, Kathy? If I'm a nurse, would I rather lose a bunch of my coworkers on my floor and have that inadequate staffing causing stress to both me and my patients, or risk possible exposure to a virus I'm already vaccinated against in an environment that constantly exposes me to comparable danger regardless? If I'm a patient, say a woman in labor, as Kathy specifically cites.
Whether you're an expectant mom heading into the hospital, checking in, you need to be assured that the person taking care of you is not going to give COVID to you or your newborn.
Wouldn't I rather have someone there to help me, even if there are risks, than nobody there to help me, which is the reality in an upstate county where labor and delivery services are unavailable at a hospital because there are no workers there to provide them? And of course, different people will answer those questions differently because different people are at different risk levels and different people accept different risk levels. But Kathy Hochul says they don't. Kathy Hochul says nobody accepts this risk. And so everybody must have her personal risk assessment imposed upon them. But if everybody agrees with her on what to do, then why does she have to resort to force to make them do it? It's an important question to consider, but there's a more important one still, which is, how do we even get here? How do we get to the point of government making personal risk judgments for you and punishing you if you decide differently in your own personal risk assessment? We get here by fundamentally forgetting the purpose and process of government in the first place. Why does government exist? To secure and defend your natural rights. That's it. That is its only legitimate purpose, but that's not what Kathy Hochul says. She says her job exists to keep you safe.
My job number one in this state is to keep people safe. Clear, simple. There's no way to cloud that. There's no gray area. I need to keep people in this state safe.
And yeah, it's true that there's overlap between securing your rights and keeping you safe. Intervening to stop a murder does both, for example. But which one is actually more important? Because I can lock you up in a padded cell and it would work to keep you safe, at least from most of life's physical dangers. But if you say I'd be wrong to do that, why? If it's my first job to keep you safe, there's nothing wrong with locking you up. In fact, it's totally effective. It's only wrong if there's actually a higher moral value beyond keeping you safe. And what would that be? It would be respecting your right to be free and to assess life's risks for yourself. And we're not just betraying government's purpose, we're betraying government's process too. Kathy Hochul, like so many others, is exerting her will through executive action. She signed an executive order to give herself more executive power. You can't any more directly betray American principles of government. If you want to minimize mistakes, you decentralize power. You don't concentrate it. If you want to get good policy, you get it through consensus and deliberation, not fiat. And just in case you still entertain any delusions that we can betray these fundamental truths and instead follow crazy people like this lady to any sort of normalcy or prosperity, that speech was actually just the follow-up. She had way more self-aggrandizing weirdness on display just the day prior. That quote about the vaccinated being smart that I showed earlier is from another Kathy Hochul speech on Sunday, one at a church, where she substituted her medical views for scripture and herself as a prophet to lead you.
He made them come up with a vaccine. That is from God to us. And I wear my vaccinated necklace all the time to say, I'm vaccinated. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other. We love each other.
Well, there she goes, doing the impossible of making Andrew Cuomo look good. For all his faults, at least he never appointed himself Messiah, even if plenty in the media did that for him. But for all the criticism you can throw at Cuomo, and there's plenty, this uncritical worship of government is what actually leads to all of history's greatest horrors. Far worse than a long career of ass grabs. Except this time. That's what we're supposed to believe. This is the one time where if we just accept that all the smart people are in charge and they're just trying to take care of us, if we just do what they say, pretty soon we're all going to be very happy and very healthy and very prosperous. But we've been saying pretty soon for a year and a half now, and we're not happier, we're not healthier, we're not more prosperous. And every indicator we have says pretty soon is getting farther away, not closer. It's time to remember, if you want a normal life for yourself, it's up to you to build it. Those things aren't just handed out. And even if someone wants to give it to you, they can't, because a great life for you depends on your active construction every day, not someone else's direction or control. Accordingly, this only ends when we say it ends. It only goes back to normal when we say it goes back to normal. And that only happens when we retake rightful control of our own lives for ourselves, using the one word that every tyrant is eventually forced to understand: no. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Minds. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.